Good evening, everyone. Today we can discuss some real-time scenarios, okay? And also, while discussing what I'm going to do, I'm going to record the session topic by topic, okay? So I'm not going to record entire the session in one video. So I will take a one topic, we'll complete, then we'll stop the recording, and we'll take one more recording, and we'll go for another topic, so that it will help for you while watching the video. No need to, if you want to watch specific topic, you can directly go and watch that particular video. Okay. So here today, these are the topics we will cover. And if time limits in the 3 hours or 3+ hours, we try to cover other topics. But today, we'll try to cover these topics as much as possible. If it is pending, then we can go for tomorrow, if it is pending today. So today, we are going to discuss. First topic is like, what are the different restore pages in SQL Server? And we are going to discuss another topic is like, what is the process to move the database files from one location to another location? That means one drive to another drive. And how many ways, how many methods we can move the database files from one drive to another drive. And what are the scenario? How can we have to move? The other topic is like, if the disk is full, that may be data drive or that may be log drive. If it is full, how can you check and how can you resolve the disk space alerts on the database server? The other topic is like, if the database data file is full, okay, what is the error we will get? If the database data file full, what will happen and what error you will get, and what will happen from the application perspective and the user perspective while inserting the data. The other topic is like, what is the sync operation in SQL Server and how can we do it? Like how many ways and what are the types sync operation in the SQL Server? The other thing is like, the real topic are very critical. Like if temp database disk is corrupted, or maybe temp DB disk is missing, then SQL Server will stop, right? So in this scenario, how can you connect the SQL Server and how can you resolve that issue in the SQL Server service stopped? The other thing is like, very important topic, like we have onboard the new customer from any environment, maybe some customer environment to our environment. We onboard the SQL Server. That comes like a lift and shift. That means entire VM infra team brought to the our environment. That scenario, we cannot log into the server. Why? Because that server came from the customer or a different domain or a different environment. That scenario, we don't have Windows login to connect, and as well as they did not provide the SA password. That scenario, how can you log in? Another scenario, like we got a new customer, and while installing the one of the DBA team, he installed the SQL Server. He forgot to add the members in while installing. What are the required for a DB team? He did not add. Then next day, he went for vacation or he went for sick leave, or maybe he did not connect. But we have to do the some other configuration checks and we have to onboard the new customers. That scenario, how can you log in? Because he did not add the DBT member and he did not give the SA password. Then how can you connect? These topics we are going to discuss in the theoretically and as well as practically. Okay, let's go. Start. First topic. What are the different restore pages in SQL Server? So here we have a database called Adilab, and we took the backup to the some drive. Here I took the backup. Maybe sometimes what will happen, we got the backup from the other customer or maybe other team. Okay, I want to restore this backup to the any one of the database or any one of the environment. So while restoring this database backup to any environment or any database, what exactly it will happen in the background. So we need to understand while restoring what will happen in the background. While restoring, we cannot able to see all the process what is happening in the SQL Server, but there are some pages while restoring or reloading this database backup to the any database. That may be same database, or maybe that may be different database. While restoring, what will happen? Okay, so we need to check. So last time we discussed what are the prerequisites while restoring the database backup from one environment to another environment. What are the checks we need to do? And also we discussed if you get the database backup, how can we know that the database backup valid or not, and how many files we have, and what are the size inside the backup. We discussed, right? So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to restore this database backup to one of the development database. While restoring, what will happen? What are the pages? So let's go to ask our Microsoft Copilot, and we can go through all the topics one by one. Yeah. So just I asked the Copilot, and what are the different restore pages in SQL Server? Okay. So there are several pages in SQL Server, but in that we have mainly 3 pages. One is data copy page, redo page, and as well as undo page. These are the 3 pages. Apart from that, we have other pages called file creation page, and we have recovery page also. So what we can discuss all these things. Okay. So file creation page, what it will do. So here I have a backup. Okay. In that backup, I have 3 files: Adilab MDF, and Adilab2 NDF, and Adi_log ELDF. These files are inside the backup. So while restoring, what will happen? First, it will copy the backup and it will try to create the files in that particular database if it doesn't have. If the particular database existing on the server, what it will do? It will try to overwrite the existing files. That is the first phase in the creation files from the backup. Why? Because this backup, I'm having 3 files. One is MDF, another one is LDF, another one is LDF. So once I try to click here, then once I try to execute, in the initial step, what it will do? It will try to create all these files in the physical location in the server. If the files are already existing, it will overwrite. If the files are not there, it will create. That is the first space. In the background, it will initiate. The other thing is like the next page, data copy paste. Data copy paste, what it will do? Data copy paste, the actual content of the backup file to be copied to the MDF and LDF to that particular database which we created from the backup. So the first step is like once we executed here, it will create the files, then it will start copying the data to the respective data file like MDF and NDF and log file. So the pages and permanent data will go to the MDF and NDF. The log file, it go to the active transactions and inactive transaction to copy to the second phase. So in the second phase, what it will do? It will try to copy the data, and if you doesn't have space to copy the entire data, we will get the error like the particular E drive or C drive doesn't have space to keep this particular MDF or LDF to the database using this backup. Please keep this much of space to allocate on that particular drive. So the second page, it will tell if you doesn't have any free space, it will throw the error. This much of space we required, then only it will start restore. Sometimes what will happen? It will initiate the restore. In the middle of the restore, it will fail and it will get the error. The disk doesn't have space to keep these files. Why? Because in the second page, it will apply the data which is having on that particular database backup. That is the second phase. We can call like a data copy phase. The third phase is, and fourth phase is also really important to get the accurate and committed data. So the redo phase, what it will do? So here, once we enter, the data is copying from the copy phase using the backup. The third phase, it involves what it will do? It will check the transaction file, not for the MDF. So the redo phase, it will look at the transaction log file inside the backup, and it will check what are the committed transactions that are happened before finishing the backup. What that means? What that means, like I have initiated the backup. That will take 1 hour or 2 hours, 30 minutes, or maybe 10 minutes. At that time, what will happen? What are the transactions are hitting to the database? Those will log into the transaction log file. In that transaction log file, what we have? Committed active portion and inactive portion. Active portion will have current transactions or with active ongoing operations or failed transaction. But inactive portions will have committed data. So what are the committed happening before finishing the backup that are not moving to the MDF? So if it is not moving, but the backup is finished, but in the actual data, the data is moved, but while finishing, the data still behind in the, it's a process of moving the data from LDF to MDF, the backup is finished. That means the data is committed, but it's not moved while finishing the backup. So what it will do here, the redo phase, it will check the transaction log and it will make sure what are the committed transaction before finishing the backup. That will recheck, and if it is any committed transaction on the transaction log file, those transaction will move to the disk. That means MDF or NDF. So the redo phase, simply it will reapply the committed transaction to the MDF. Sorry. So fourth phase, the fourth phase is undo phase. So the undo phase, what it will do? So the undo phase, this also work on the transaction log file. Why? Because the transaction log will have committed and uncommitted transaction. So if you perform as a recovery, what we have to give the customer or database committed transaction, it has to move the MDF, and uncommitted transaction, it has to keep in the transaction log file. So that is the reason it will apply and check what are the uncommitted transaction that will keep into the transaction log file. Suppose if the database we kept in the no recovery pages, in this scenario, what it will do? It will if the restoration done with no recovery, this page is kept. So here, if you keep the database while restoring no recovery, that scenario, this undo page will skip. Why? Because we are going to restore another database. That time it will come to the picture. If you provide only raw recovery, then only undo page will work on the background process. If you keep the database no recovery, that undo page will be skipped. If the keep the database recovery, then the fourth phase will apply and it will keep the uncommitted transaction in the LDF. Once it completed, it will move to the another phase that is called recovery phase. So this recovery phase, what it will do? The database will move the state from restoring mode to online state. So once database comes to the online, then only users and then only it will have consistent data. So this is the background process will apply while restoring the database from the backup. So these pages we cannot see while restoring from the SQL Server side, but this is the background process will apply in the SQL Server. So that is the reason the data copy paste, it will very crucial. That is the reason our initial prerequisites, we need to check the source database data files, what are the size we have in the target location. Are we good to keep those files in the target drive or not? So that is the reason we need to check the space available or not. So I'm going to stop the recording here. Once you stop the recording, you can ask the questions if you have any doubts on this specific topic. Okay, because it's really important to understand what is happening while restoring the backup to the SQL Server. Let me stop recording here. Then you can ask the questions if you have any here. So let me stop it.